So today I will be teaching you guys how to make kind of like a really fancy dish that only takes a little bit of ingredients. It is going to take a little bit of time though. It's called creme brulee. It's a really fancy like custard type dish made in these little ramekins, ceramic bowls. So the first ingredients that you guys are going to need are 6 large egg yolks right here, you know, like the yellow part, and you're going to need 1/3 cup of sugar right here, just the granulated white sugar. You're going to need 2 cups of heavy whipping cream right there. You're going to need 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and then 4 of these little ceramic bowls. These are called ramekins. You can just anything about this size made out of ceramic, and that's all you guys are going to need. So let's get into it. So now the first step of this recipe is we're going to take 6 of the egg yolks and 1/3 cup of sugar, and we're going to put it into this large bowl here. So we're going to take our 1/3 cup of sugar right here, put it into our bowl, and now we're going to crack our eggs. I'm going to show you guys a really cool trick how to do this. So yeah, come over here. So the really neat thing about this trick is it uses suction through these plastic water bottles. So we have the sugar in the bowl, and then we're going to take this plastic bottle. So you squeeze it a little bit, then you put it right on top of the egg yolk, and you let go, and it'll suck it up in there, just like that. And use that, you can just pop it right there. So there we go. Now we're going to move on. We're going to whisk it until it becomes a very light color and all the sugar is dissolved into the liquid. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I did a little bit of whisking off of camera, and now it's a lot lighter of a color. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I did a little bit of whisking off of camera, and now it's a lot lighter of a color. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step, with our eggs set aside, we're going to pour 2 cups of heavy whipping cream into a medium saucepan, and then we are going to put this on the stove top and heat it at medium heat, so onto the stove. So now we are going to turn it on to, we're going to heat it medium heat, right, until it is, we're going to whisk it occasionally and wait until it's bubbling at the edges. It's just, nice and warm. And so we're going to, like I said, whisk it occasionally so that we make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom, because it's really easy to burn like heavy whipping cream and milk like that. So let's turn it on and let's get cooking. Just keep on whisking. Okay, so now we're going to take it right off the heat after I mixed in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now we're going to put 1/2 cup of the still warm heavy whipping cream, and we're going to mix it into our eggs. So now we're going to take our 1/2 cup of our warm heavy whipping cream, and we're going to slowly pour it in as we whisk so that we can get it nice and mixed together, just like that. And we're just going to make sure it's nice and whisked in. And there we go. Now on to the next step. Now we're going to slowly whisk in the rest of the heated heavy whipping cream right into the rest of the eggs. So we're going to do the same process where we're just slowly, that wasn't very slow, we're going to slowly whisk it in until it's all in there. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to make sure that there's no, film on top of this mixture. And then we're going to strain it through a fine mesh strainer to make sure that it's nice and good. So you can take a spoon, and if there's any film developing on this, like a sticky film or foam, you can scoop it off with a spoon, kind of just like that. So let's go over to the sink. So now we're going to strain our egg and cream mixture through this fine mesh strainer carefully, back and forth, so we can get every last bit of what needs to be taken out into this big bowl. So now we're going to take the rest of this and we're going to distribute them evenly into these 4 little ramekins. Just like so. Try and get it as even as possible. Da, 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 da. And there we go. Some of these have a little bit more others, but in the end, it's not totally about how much is in each bowl, as long as it all gets an equal amount. So now what we're going to do is called a water bath, where we're going to boil this water and we're going to put it into this pan with all of the ramekins full of the custard mix in there. And so what that's going to do is help all of the custard as it cooks in the oven. From when it starts to become more of a hardened texture, it's going to help it not to crack because of the steam, and it's going to help it cook evenly with all the hot water surrounding it. Now, I'm not going to make you guys wait, so I'm going to make this really fast. And so all this water, it's going to start boiling in 3, 2, 1. So now that it's done boiling, we're going to carefully pour it right here into this pan. Oof. Be a shame if I mess this up. So you just want to make sure that the water reaches about halfway up the ramekins. And now we're going to put it into the oven. So I just put them into the oven at 325. They're going to sit in there for about 35 to 45 minutes until the edges of the custards are they seem done, and the center is like slightly jiggly. And so once we're done, we're going to take it out and put them on a cooling rack. So let's put them in there. So now take them out very carefully. This is kind of awkward. Okay, and now I'm going to slide this over here and see if I can carefully take these out. Now this is I'm gonna use these rubber-ended tongs and this hot pad because they're still very hot in the very hot water. So what I'm gonna do, it's kind of hard, I'm gonna grab them. Then I'm going to carefully swap it to under there, and then bring it over there. And then we just have to do the same with the rest of these. Just like that. Man. So, as you can see on some of these, on this, especially this blue one and this red one, you can tell that you can see how there's hardened bubbles on top, and that's most likely because we didn't get all of the bubbles skimmed off when we were pouring it into the ramekins. So one thing to look out whenever you're doing it is to make sure, maybe right before you put it in the oven, use a spoon or something and try and scoop off as many of the bubbles as you can, just to get it nice and ready. So now we're going to let these cool for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and finish the brulee finish with the melted sugar. So now, this is pretty much the last step. It's making the brulee, the hard, crispy, sugary texture on top. So we're going to start with just a spoon and a bowl of sugar, and individually we're going to take, about a tablespoon. We're going to sprinkle it on top, just like that. And so for each one, maybe a bit more. What you want to do, you don't want a super thick layer, and so you want to be able to, mix it around so it's a nice even layer all the way across, because we're going to do this with all of them, and we're going to put them into the oven on a high broil just until you see all the sugar is starting to melt. And once we're done, we're going to take them out and we're going to let the sugar harden, and then we'll go from there and it'll be ready to eat. Let's see. So just make sure to shake it around just to get a nice even layer everywhere. There we go. So now we're going to take these and we're going to put them in here, making sure that the rack in the oven is nice and high so it'll cook pretty fast and not, melt the actual custard part. So usually, you may have seen this recipe online where they take the sugar and they'll melt it with a kitchen torch. That's how you're supposed to do it regularly, but I don't have one of those right now. Mine is broken. So another option you can do is you put them in the oven on a broil just like this, and it'll melt the sugar and you can just take it out and harden it. It's a lot easier. So you just want to leave it in here, and you can look occasionally, just make sure that it's getting nice and hardened. The sugar will tend to brown a little bit, and once you see that it's all melted all the way to the edges, then it'll be done. So let's check back in a minute. So this is probably the best looking one. They're not all going to look as great. So you tilt it, like you don't have to tilt it, I'm just doing this to show you. So you just take a small spoon, and since it's hardened now, you just crack it open. This one's a bit thick. I might have used a bit too much sugar, but just like that, right? Now I'll introduce you to my Taste Tester 3000. Come on over here. So take this.
Ooh.
Don't eat all of it. I want some.
A little of the sugar and the custard.
Yeah, I think that sugar's a bit thick.
The custard is so smooth. It's delicious. Wow.
Well, great.
I'll be back later.
I was gonna eat that.